Hi, I am Palm Praise 2, and I like to welcome you to an evening edition read here on Palm Praise 2. Certainly, peace and blessings be to you and your family this evening. Now, we are going to go ahead and get into the evening read I have for you. We are in Lies My Teacher Told Me by James Lowen. And we're still in chapter number 5, y'all. Gone with the Wind. This is going to be take number 17 of this chapter. So without further ado, this take, it reads as such. It is almost unimaginable how racist the United States became during the Nadir, Nadir, from Mayaca, Mayakka City, Florida, to Medford, Oregon. Whites attacked their black neighbors, driving them out and leaving the towns all white. Communities with no black populations passed ordinances or resolved informality to threaten African American newcomers with death if they remained overnight. Thus, we're created thousands of sundown towns. Probably a majority of all incorporated communities in Illinois, Indiana, Oregon, and several other northern states. Sundown towns range in size from DeLand, Illinois, population 500, to Appleton, Wisconsin, 57,000, and Warren, Michigan, almost 200,000. Many suburbs kept out Jews. In the West, many towns excluded Chinese, Mexican, or Native Americans. Entire areas, most of the Ozarks, the Cumberlands, the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, became almost devoid of African Americans. Within metropolitan areas, whites pushed blacks into what now became known as black neighborhoods. As cities grew increasingly segregated residentially, for that word, y'all, African Americans were excluded from juries throughout the South and in many places in the North, which usually meant they could forget about legal redress, even for the obvious wrongs like assault, theft, or arson by whites. Lynching offered evidence of how defenseless blacks were. For the defining characteristic of a lynching is that the murder takes place in public, or everyone knows who did it. Yet the crime goes unpunished. During the Nadir, lynchings took place as far north as Duluth, once again, as Dred Scott had proclaimed in 1857. A Negro had no rights. A white man was bound to respect. Every time African Americans interacted with European Americans, no matter how insignificant the contact, they had to be aware of how they presented themselves, lest they give offense by looking someone in the eye, forgetting to say, sir, or otherwise stepping out of their place. Always the threat of overwhelming force lay just beneath the surface. The nadir left African Americans in a dilemma, an exodus, to form a new black communities in the West did not lead to real freedom. Migration north led only to segregated urban ghettos. Concentrating on Booker T. Washington's plan for economic improvement while foregoing civil and political rights could not work, because economic gains could not be maintained without civil and political rights. Back to Africa was not practicable. Many African Americans lost hope. Family instability and crime increased. This period of American life, not slavery, marked the beginning of what some social scientists have called the tangle of pathology in African American society. Indeed, some historians date low black morale to even later periods, such as the Great Migration to northern cities between the time of 1918 to 1970. The Depression, the time 1929 to 1939, or changes in urban life and occupational structure after World War II. This tangle was the result, not the cause, of the segregation and discrimination African Americans faced. Black jockeys and mail carriers were shut out not because they were inadequate, but because they succeeded. Recent textbooks point out more trees in the Nadir forest. From the American Way, students learned that by the early 1900s, white workers had convinced most labor unions not to admit blacks. The Americans tells that African Americans found themselves forced into segregated neighborhoods in the North. Borston and Kelly lets Woodrow Wilson off the hook for his administration's extreme racism, but does not blame Attorney General A. Mitchell Palmer for inciting execrable citizens to vent their fears and their hates against any American who seemed different, including blacks, Jews, and Catholics. Several books tell about lynchings, although none include a picture. 3 new textbooks mention the riot in Springfield, Illinois in 1908, in which whites drove out 2/3 of the black population, trying to make Springfield a sundown town. all of the newer texts mention the rise of the second Ku Klux Klan. Now, on the other hand, we're going to pick that up on take number 18 here on Poem Praise 2. So, if you like, certainly hit the like button, share, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. You know when Poem Praise 2, is coming with something new for you. I do want for you and your family to be well, to be safe, to be blessed, and it be it thy will. Poem Praise 2. I will talk and see you soon. Till next time. Later, y'all.